Have you ever sat alone looking at your empty wallet and felt your heart sink? Not because of the lack of money, but because of the weight of worry? Have you ever whispered, God, I'm doing all I can, but it feels like I'm standing still? Oh, my friend, I want you to hear this with every beat of your heart. Your words are not empty. Your voice carries power in the realm of the Spirit. There's a divine law, a heavenly principle that says whatever you call forth with faith will come running toward you. Money is not a mystery, it's a servant waiting to obey a command. Yet so many call it by the wrong name. They say, I'm broke, I never have enough, it's always hard for me. And those words, they build walls instead of doors. You are framing your financial world with every syllable that leaves your mouth. Listen, money responds to faith-filled words, not fear-filled ones. When you stand on the word and declare, money comes to me now in the name of Jesus, heaven hears it, angels are dispatched, and provision begins to move. You're not begging, you're commanding in alignment with divine authority. The law of calling money by its name is not about greed, it's about dominion. You're not chasing money, you're summoning it to its rightful purpose. Speak increase, not lack. Speak overflow, not emptiness. The moment you change your language, your life begins to shift. So lift your head, open your mouth, and call your money by its name. It knows your voice, and it's waiting for your command. The world around you is not just shaped by effort, it's shaped by expression. What you speak becomes what you see. Every time you open your mouth, you are either creating doors for blessings to enter or walls that keep them out. Words are not just sounds. They are spiritual containers that carry the force of belief. When you say, I can't afford that, you are not simply describing your condition. You are defining your future. Heaven listens when you speak, and so does everything in creation. The Bible says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. That means your tongue holds the key to your financial destiny. If your speech has been filled with fear, doubt, and defeat, your finances have only mirrored the reflection of your confession. But when your mouth begins to agree with God's promises, your world begins to respond with opportunities, favor, and supernatural increase. You're not waiting for money to come, you're waiting for your words to build the atmosphere where it can exist. Think about this. Everything that exists today was once spoken into being. The universe itself was framed by the word. That means your life, your resources, and your finances can be framed the same way. Your words create structure, foundation, and direction. If you constantly declare lack, then lack becomes the blueprint of your financial world. But if you begin to speak abundance, the unseen realm starts constructing pathways for it to manifest. You are never wordless. You are always building something with your speech. Some people unknowingly build poverty with their declarations, while others build prosperity through faith. Every time you say, I have more than enough, those words travel into your future and wait for you there. They become invisible workers, setting up divine appointments and preparing provision before you even arrive. Words are like seeds, and your mouth is the soil where they are planted. When you speak words of increase, you are sowing for a harvest of abundance. But when you speak words of fear, you're sowing weeds that choke your potential. Too many people pray for financial blessings while their speech keeps canceling their prayers. They ask for breakthrough, but talk about struggle. They declare faith in one moment and doubt in the next. You cannot plant faith and harvest fear. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. What you speak consistently becomes the climate your finances must live in. If you speak struggle, your finances suffocate. If you speak overflow, your finances breathe. God's word was never meant just to be read. It was meant to be spoken, released, and lived. Your words are the paintbrush of your destiny, and every sentence colors the canvas of your future. When you begin to understand that your words are spiritual instruments, you'll stop speaking carelessly about money. You'll stop joking about being broke, stop repeating what the world says about economic crisis, and start speaking what God says about abundance. Faith doesn't deny reality, it transforms it. You may not have much right now, but when you start saying, I am blessed, money comes to me easily, opportunities find me daily, you are not lying, you are aligning. Your words invite heaven to agree with you. Angels are activated by faithful speech, not silent worry. Every declaration you make in faith sets something in motion. The unseen world begins to rearrange itself to make your words true. Your mouth is a steering wheel. Wherever your words go, your life will follow. You can talk yourself into freedom or into frustration. The choice rests in the direction of your confession. If you want to build a financial world of peace, overflow, and freedom, then discipline your mouth. Start each day with declarations that align with divine truth. Say things like, wealth and riches are in my house. I am a giver, and I am never without supply. Money flows to me with divine favor. These words are not wishful thinking. They are spiritual laws spoken in faith. Over time, they reshape your mindset, your atmosphere, and your results. The world might call it positive thinking, but in the spirit, it's far greater than that. It's prophetic construction. You are not just speaking optimism. You are releasing the authority of heaven over your finances. Your words invite resources, attract favor, and unlock the flow of divine provision. Speak what you want to see, not what you fear. Faith speaks of things that are not as though they already are. Every great financial turnaround begins with a shift in language. Before wealth appears in your hands, it must first be built in your words. If you want your life to change, your mouth must change first. Your words are spiritual blueprints, and heaven builds according to what you declare. Even in moments of lack, refuse to agree with emptiness. Instead, agree with abundance. Speak increase when your pockets are empty. Declare prosperity when you don't see it yet, because words create before they manifest, and what you consistently confess becomes what you eventually possess. You are never too late, never too far gone, and never too small to start building your financial world with your words. The moment your language changes, the construction of your new financial future begins. Have you ever thought about the fact that money can hear you? It may sound unusual, even strange, but in the spiritual realm, everything responds to sound, especially faith-filled words. Money is not merely paper or metal. It is a living instrument in the hands of divine purpose. It was created to move, to serve, to flow in alignment with the authority of the believer. When you speak, your words go beyond the air. They travel into the unseen world and set spiritual laws into motion. Every time you say, I never have enough, that sound doesn't just disappear. It sends a message that repels provision. But when you say, money comes to me now in abundance and it obeys my voice, heaven records it, angels respond, and financial situations begin to shift. The truth is, your finances are not deaf. They're waiting for the right sound, the sound of faith, authority, and expectation. Money listens to the language of dominion, not desperation. Many people cry out in need but never speak in command. They plead, they worry, they fear, yet never realize that their tone carries more power than their prayer. Faith is not begging. It is believing that what you say carries weight. When Jesus spoke to the storm, he didn't plead for peace. He commanded it. That same spiritual authority is within you. The moment you speak to your finances with confidence, they begin to respond. Money doesn't move because of emotion, it moves because of authority. When you speak from a heart anchored in faith, your words become law in the realm of provision. You are not trying to convince heaven to give, you are enforcing what heaven already promised. Money was created to obey divine command, and your voice carries that command when aligned with truth. So many people struggle financially not because heaven has forgotten them, but because they've never learned the language money listens to. They speak confusion instead of clarity, lack instead of abundance, frustration instead of faith. You cannot keep saying, I'm always short and expect to live in overflow. Every time you speak those words, you train money to stay away. The spiritual world operates by recognition. It responds to sound that carries faith. Think about it. When you call a person by name, they turn to you. In the same way, when you call money by faith, it turns in your direction. Your declarations attract it. When you say, money, you come to me from every direction. I am blessed and favored. Those words release vibration into the unseen, and that vibration becomes movement. What you speak consistently becomes the frequency your finances respond to. You can't whisper defeat and expect victory. You must release the sound that matches your promise. Money's obedience is tied to the authority behind your words. It's not the loudness of your voice, but the power of your belief that gives sound its strength. You can whisper in faith and move mountains, or shout in fear and see nothing change. The moment you speak with conviction, heaven takes record. Faith gives your words substance, and authority gives them direction. When you say, money comes to me, you are not wishing. You are calling something that belongs to you by covenant. Money is a servant, not a master. It's meant to obey the one who knows their identity. You are not chasing it. You are summoning it for divine assignment. When your purpose is pure, your words carry even greater weight. You are not asking for greed. You are commanding for kingdom. Money knows who speaks from greed and who speaks from grace. When you speak with the authority of faith and the heart of purpose, resources begin to move toward you from unexpected places. Everything in creation is voice activated. God spoke and light appeared. Jesus spoke and the dead rose. You were made in that same image. Your words are designed to command response. Money may not have ears like a human, but it has spiritual sensitivity to the voice of faith. When you speak life, money responds to life. When you speak lack, it responds to lack. The law of the Spirit does not discriminate. It only reacts to sound. That's why your words cannot be casual when it comes to finances. Every declaration you make either draws provision closer or pushes it away. Say to yourself daily, money, hear my voice and obey. You are made to serve, not to control. You flow into my life freely and abundantly. When you speak this way consistently, you build a spiritual momentum that changes your atmosphere. You stop living from paycheck to paycheck and start living from promise to manifestation. You must understand that heaven and earth both move by command. Even angels respond to spoken words of faith. If heaven itself listens to your declarations, how much more will money obey? Your voice is not ordinary. It carries spiritual DNA. Every time you speak with authority, something shifts in the unseen. You may not see it instantly, but movement begins. Contracts are drawn up. Opportunities are stirred. Favor is released, all in response to the sound of your faith. That's why silence can be dangerous. The enemy thrives in the absence of your voice. When you stay quiet, your situation stays still. But the moment you speak, creation must listen. So open your mouth. Speak to your finances. Tell money where to go, what to do, and how to serve you. It's been waiting for your command, waiting to hear your voice, waiting for faith to sound the alarm, because money has ears, and it's listening to you. There comes a moment in every believer's life when you must stop crying for what has already been given. God never called you to live as a beggar. He called you to reign as a child of divine authority. Provision was not meant to be chased. It was meant to be commanded. When you beg, you position yourself beneath the promise. But when you command, you stand upon it. The world teaches lack, but heaven teaches dominion. You were never created to plead for daily bread. You were empowered to speak to the source and watch the supply flow. Every time you open your mouth in faith, you are not trying to convince God to provide. You are aligning yourself with the law of spiritual authority that already guarantees your provision. Begging flows from fear, but commanding flows from faith. Faith doesn't ask, can I have it? Faith declares it's already mine. You don't need to persuade God to bless you. He already has. You simply need to enforce what has been promised through the authority of your words. When you understand that God has already released abundance, your entire approach to prayer changes. You stop asking from a place of lack and start declaring from a place of possession. Begging is the language of those who don't know who they are. Commanding is the language of sons and daughters who recognize their inheritance. Imagine a king's child asking permission to sit at the royal table. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? Yet many of God's children live that way, pleading for what heaven has already placed within reach. You were never meant to approach God's promises as a stranger. You were meant to operate as an heir. That's why Jesus said, "Speak to the mountain, not cry about it." Commanding provision means using your words as instruments of creation. You don't wait for circumstances to shift before you speak. Your speech shifts the circumstance. You decree, and the realm of matter responds. Begging comes from a heart that doubts its worth. Commanding comes from a heart that knows its covenant. When you beg, your words carry the vibration of fear, and fear attracts delay. But when you speak as one who knows they have been authorized, your words carry the vibration of dominion. And dominion attracts manifestation. Heaven's system recognizes authority, not anxiety. When you say, "Money, come to me now," you are not being arrogant. You are being obedient to the spiritual principle that life responds to faithful words. Provision doesn't move because you cry. It moves because you command in alignment with divine will. Jesus never begged the storm to be still. He spoke, and creation obeyed. You carry that same DNA of authority. Your voice is not ordinary. It's the echo of the divine. When you release words of faith, heaven and earth must listen. You are not a victim of financial circumstances. You are a commander over them. To command provision doesn't mean to be demanding toward God. It means to exercise the authority He already delegated to you. Think of it this way. A police officer doesn't own the law, but he enforces it with confidence. He doesn't beg a speeding driver to stop. He raises his hand and expects obedience because he represents authority. In the same way, when you command provision, you are enforcing the spiritual laws God already established. You're not trying to twist His arm. You're partnering with His purpose. Heaven doesn't respond to need alone. It responds to faith expressed through authority. That's why people who understand this principle see miracles that others only pray about. They speak with conviction, not confusion. They don't chase after blessings. They call blessings forth. Your words are the badge of divine authority. When spoken with faith, the universe recognizes the sound and obeys. You must stop thinking that humility means weakness. True humility is agreement with what God has said about you. When He calls you blessed, you must say, "I am blessed." When He calls you provided for, you must say, "I have more than enough." Begging dishonors the giver because it questions His generosity. Commanding honors Him because it acknowledges His promise. You don't have to feel powerful to speak powerfully. Your authority doesn't come from emotion. It comes from position. You are seated in heavenly places, far above lack, debt, and fear. When you declare provision, you are speaking from your rightful seat of dominion. Say it boldly. Money flows to me. Resources find me. Opportunities locate me. Those are not empty phrases. They are laws in motion. When spoken in faith, they set angels to work, open unseen doors, and rearrange your environment for increase. The shift from begging to commanding begins with how you see yourself. If you see yourself as needy, you'll always speak from desperation. But if you see yourself as empowered, your words will carry weight. The difference between lack and overflow often lies in one thing: the language of faith. Stop talking like a victim of circumstance and start speaking like a vessel of power. Provision is not something you earn, it's something you enforce. Your mouth is the switch that activates the flow of divine supply. Every time you command, provision manifests now. The spiritual world begins to move. You may not see results immediately, but movement begins in the unseen. You don't need to cry for what's already yours. You need to declare it with unwavering faith. Because heaven doesn't respond to begging hands, it responds to believing mouths. You don't beg for provision, you command it. Everything in your life rises or falls to the level of your language. Your words are not random. They are prophetic instruments shaping your destiny. The way you talk about your life, your money, your health, your future, it all builds the structure of the world you live in. Some people pray for elevation, but speak the language of limitation. They say, "Nothing ever works for me. I'm just trying to survive," or "People like me never get ahead." And without realizing it, those very words build invisible barriers that keep them bound. You can't live on the mountain while speaking the language of the valley. If you want to rise higher, your vocabulary must rise first. Language is not only communication, it's creation. You can't speak like a victim and expect to live like a victor. You can't declare lack and expect abundance. The moment you change your language, the spiritual climate around you begins to shift. Your level will always respond to your words. Every time you speak, you are sowing seeds. Your words carry life or death, increase or decrease, blessing or bondage. When your words are filled with faith, they plant seeds of elevation. When your words are filled with fear, they plant seeds of limitation. You may be praying for financial breakthrough, but if you constantly say, "I never have enough," your speech cancels your own prayer, and heaven operates by agreement. When your mouth agrees with God's promise, your reality begins to align with it. But when your mouth agrees with your struggle, you reinforce the chains that hold you back. The level you live on is the level you've been talking on. The atmosphere of your life is simply an echo of your language. If you want to see change, you must first change the words that come out of your mouth. Speak life even when you see lack. Declare increase even when your hands look empty. Your language determines your identity, and your identity determines your level. The words you choose are reflections of how you see yourself. When you speak small, it's because you've accepted smallness. But when you speak faith, it's because you've recognized greatness within. Changing your language is not pretending, it's prophesying. It's refusing to let your current situation dictate your confession. When you begin to speak from who you are becoming, rather than where you are, you activate a higher dimension of manifestation. Words don't just describe your future, they design it. When you say, "I am blessed, favored, and walking in overflow," you are not denying your challenges, you're declaring your divine position. Heaven doesn't move because you complain, it moves because you proclaim. Every word you speak is a ladder. It either lifts you higher or pulls you lower. Your level shifts when your language shifts, because your mouth builds the world your faith lives in. You cannot expect promotion while speaking the language of defeat. If you want your finances to rise, stop speaking the language of shortage. If you want relationships to improve, stop confessing loneliness. Everything responds to sound. Even creation itself was born when God said, "Let there be." You were created in that same image. Your words carry creative force. When you say, "Things never work for me," you command failure to follow you. But when you say, "Everything I touch prospers," you command success to locate you. The moment you change your speech, you start aligning with the frequency of favor. Your mouth is a magnet. It attracts what you consistently confess. So if you want to move to the next level, start speaking the language of that level. Start talking like where you are and start talking like where you're going. Speak vision, not victimhood. Speak faith, not frustration. Changing your language is not a one-time act. It's a lifestyle of discipline. You must train your tongue to obey your faith, not your feelings. Feelings fluctuate, but faith remains steady. When things look hard, that's when your words matter most. Don't echo your circumstances. Command them to shift. Say what you want to see until you see what you've said. Every time you speak words of power, you are building momentum toward a new level. Your language sets your direction, and your direction determines your destiny. That's why the wisest people guard their mouths. They know one careless sentence can delay divine progress. When you speak with faith, your mind begins to change. Your perspective sharpens, and opportunities start aligning. Your vocabulary becomes your vehicle, and it can either drive you toward promise or back into poverty. To change your level, your confession must evolve before your condition does. Don't wait for things to improve before you start speaking differently. Start speaking differently so things can improve. The power to rise is already in your mouth. The language of faith creates pathways that logic cannot see. When you start saying, "I'm walking in divine abundance," heaven begins to orchestrate events that align with your words. The spiritual world responds to authority, not anxiety. When your words carry conviction, your environment begins to submit. The key to transformation is consistency. Speak it, believe it, live it, and your level will catch up to your language. The reason many never rise higher is because they keep speaking from the place they're trying to escape, but those who speak from faith ascend before their circumstances do. The law is simple. Change your language and you change your level. When you look back over everything we've uncovered today, it all comes down to one timeless truth. Your voice carries the power to build your world. Every word you speak sets something in motion. Your finances, your opportunities, your future, they all respond to the sound of your faith. You don't have to chase after what's already yours. You don't have to beg for the blessings heaven has already released. You were designed to speak, to call forth, and to command what aligns with divine promise. The moment you change your language, your life begins to rise to a new level. When you open your mouth and call money by its name with authority, you are not speaking to paper. You are speaking to purpose. You are not just trying to make ends meet. You are stepping into dominion. Your words are the steering wheel of your destiny. You can drive yourself into overflow or into lack, depending on what you declare. So let your mouth become the echo of heaven. Speak blessing when you see burden. Speak abundance when you feel empty. Speak faith when fear tries to whisper otherwise. Remember, money has ears, and it listens to the sound of faith. Provision doesn't answer to tears, it answers to truth spoken boldly. You don't beg for what's yours, you call it home. So keep your confession strong, your heart full of faith, and your eyes fixed on the promise that can never fail. Keep speaking life, keep commanding increase, and watch heaven confirm every word that leaves your mouth in faith. Thank you for listening with an open heart. May your words carry power, your faith stay unshakable, and your life overflow with divine abundance. God bless you richly and always.